Stephen, you're a former sponsor child.
Correct. I'm a former sponsored child.
And now you are a public speaker, singer-songwriter, nurse, and pastor.
Yes, a lot of things.
Can you take us back to the beginning of your life? how you've ended up here?
Well, from Uganda, born and raised in Gingertown. That's in Uganda, right around Lake Victoria, River Nile, where the Nile starts. That's where I was born and raised. And born in a family, born 4 children.
Yeah.
I'm the second born. And my father was a pastor and an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
My mom was a stay-home mom. And yeah, in 1989 is when I lost my dad, June 26th. He was shot by rebels. There was rebel activity in the east, and they took him away from us like that.
Gosh, suddenly.
How old were you?
I was 4 years old. My older brother was 6, my younger brother was 2, and the girl was 1.
How did that change your family's circumstances?
Drastically, terribly.
Yeah.
Real quick.
The younger siblings probably have, I would imagine, maybe no memory of your
Correct,
father.
that's right.
But you and your
me
older,
and my older
sibling would.
Correct.
So it's quite a different experience in your family.
It is.
Going forward. I mean, that's a horrible thing, obviously. And is that what, from that point, led you to becoming part of the sponsorship kind of program?
Yeah, so that was in 1989, and everything went south, 89, 90, 91. But in 1992, that's when Compassion and Tia Fund came to Gingertown, and they set up a project, a center, and word went around through the village and the churches, and when we heard, Mom run real quick.
Yeah.
I know. And there was about 500 kids that day that came, and I was among the first 100 that made it into the program.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a blessing.
So what does that kind of look like for someone like you at that stage? I mean, is that kind of food, assistance, education?
Yeah, because at that point now, Gingertown is basically, it's not that well-off town. It's a rural, it's lots of poverty, poverty at its peak. At that time, it was even worse. But Compassion and Tia Fund, this is what they do. They release children from poverty in Jesus' name. So the way it works is the project or the center is in a church. So it's the church. It's under a church. Now in the church, it's such a way that the staff members for Compassion are pretty much like role models, guides for the children. They become like parents. I can say for me, Uncle Fred, Cipriano, Auntie Sarah, they were like parents to me in 1992. So I didn't have a father. So these staff members know the life of these children in their homes. So they step in. They step in as father figures. They step in as mother figures to all the children.
Tell us a little bit about music and how that came into your life. Because we heard that you were on the Tusker Project Fame Season 2, which is basically like American Idol for Africa.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. Like, where did you come in the show? Like, what do you get voted out, or like how does that work?
Yeah, well, towards the end of the show is when I got not voted out. It was well, I would say voted out, but it was towards the end.
Yeah. Oh, well,
You did pretty well.
It was a very good experience, though.
It must have been
very,
fun.
very great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us how apparently you picked up music kind of a bit while you were in the Compassion Tia Fund project. Can you tell us that story?
Yes. So around 1993, so there was a piano at the church where Compassion was, and it was left by missionaries, the missionaries who built the church. So one day I was messing around with the piano. So usually it's locked. So this one day it was open. So I went up to the piano and sat there and began to figure out a few things. My father was a musician before he died. So he had a guitar. We picked up a few chords that our mother taught us. That's in the key of C, and that's it, 3 chords.
Yeah.
So I went to this piano and tried to transfer that knowledge from guitar to the piano, and I discovered that the piano is way easier than the guitar. Well, so it was fun. So this one of the elders in the church saw me playing piano, and he ran up and just sat there and said, "Continue playing." Just a few minutes, he jumped up and ran to the office, pulled the pastor's hand out of his office and said, "Come and listen." And says, "Listen to this boy." So as I was playing, he asked him on my behalf, "Is there a way we can give this boy access to this piano. Every day he comes in, and there you go. I had a key.
Wow.
I had a key to the piano, and I've never looked back ever since.
You must have had a real God-given ear and talent for music to transfer from guitar to piano, and on your first day, someone's like, they have something special going on.
Yeah, but it was him. For me, I was just messing around with it. But he saw it.
Yeah,
He
saw the
it.
potential.
Yeah, he saw it and he created the opportunity for me. And that's how I just went playing. Before I knew it, about 1 year later, I was playing the piano during the praise and worship for the children.
Yeah.
And as I grew at the age of 14, I found myself leading worship in the church.
And then it
directing the choirs from 14.
Keep going from there. And that led you on to playing in bands and sort of touring
Correct.
around and
Yeah.
doing shows, and then ending up on this TV show.
This TV show, correct. So I played music for a living.
Yeah.
Eventually. And then I ended up on a TV show. One day, this when I was at college, and one day I heard, oh, this is TV show. I was not going to go for it because it was by a beer company.
Oh, okay, right, like a conflict there.
Correct. And I was in a
I
Christian
see.
university and all that. But a friend of mine who thought that I could do it, she just pulled me and got all the forms. She even applied for me. I didn't. I did. She applied for me. And before I knew it, they said, you come for the audition. I was like, okay. I went for audition before I knew it. Yeah.
How old were you at this point?
Oh, 20, 23?
Yeah,
22?
wow.
Yeah.
23,
See,
22.
this definitely could be a movie. I mean, like the reluctant guy who's got all the talent, who's like, no, I'm happy just in my humble church, just serving the Lord. Then someone does the forms for him, and next thing he's on a stage and in this competition. Being part of the child sponsorship program.
Yes.
You know, I imagine a lot of the kids who go through that, obviously there's hardship in their life. There's reasons that they're, in poverty in the first place. And we heard a little bit about your story. But does that, being in that program, give you belief in yourself that you could do more in life, or that there's, I don't know, you have hope, you have dreams?
Correct. So that's the entire idea, releasing children from poverty. It's the whole idea, releasing children from poverty. So even the children do have a relationship with the sponsors. For me, we write letters.
Yeah.
We do have letters. And my sponsor was very intentional in the questions they asked me all the time. They kept up with my progress, communication.
Wow.
And they inspired me. Being that my sponsor was from the UK,
Yeah.
I wanted to know where UK is.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of like the relationship with your sponsor, what would you, like if anyone's listening and they have a sponsor child, what would you recommend they say in their letters to their sponsor child?
Oh my God. Inspire the child. Because the child wants to know where you're from, what you do, the world that you're in, where you come from.
Yeah.
Because it's totally different from where they are. And that will spark off the desire to learn more, the desire to do a little bit of research, ask questions.
Yeah.
For me, that led me to ask questions about what do I want to be?
That's so cool. Yeah, because I bet there's a lot of people listening to our show that have a sponsor child, but they probably think, oh, they probably don't want to hear from me. Like, I'll pay the money, I'll make sure that they're fed and everything, but not necessarily value the relationship aspect. But that's really cool to hear that was a big part of your story.
Yeah.
I've heard this from people before with their sponsor child. Almost like there's and there's being pretty honest, but almost like a guilt of the prosperity and wealth that they enjoy in the country that they're from, and then they're writing to someone who's living in poverty somewhere. And yes, they want to help, but then they're also, maybe they don't want to describe the abundance of their life because they feel like that's so unfair. When you hear about how your sponsor is living, what does that feel like for you as a sponsor child? Is that...
Well, we definitely are in totally different worlds.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand when you talk in terms of there's no poverty here, and for me it's poverty. That's all I know. I know Uganda is what I knew. So you talk about me in poverty, no, that's my normal, right? It's my normal. But people that see me from out of it say, you know what, we can get this child out of this situation. We can get this child. So everything my sponsors were doing, everything Compassion was doing, everything TFN was doing was pulling me out of poverty that I didn't understand because it was my normal.
Yeah, you couldn't even comprehend what
Yeah.
you didn't have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going through days without food, and that became normal.
Right.
Being kicked out of school, and that became normal.
Well, it's an incredible story. I'd love to keep going and hearing more, but we do got to get to the news, and I know you've got another date with the Rema crew across the hall, so we'll have to let you go, Stephen. If you want to hear more and hear a lot more about a story and journey and what you're doing now, because we've hardly even got into this, but you're a qualified nurse, you're pastoring a church in Boston, in the States.
That's right.
Incredible, man. It's been a real privilege to meet you. If you want to hear more of Stephen's story, Birkenhead Community Church this Sunday, 10 a.m. if you want to head along to the service. And if you want to find out more about sponsoring a child and making a difference in their life,
That's right.
just like Stephen has experienced, if you go to the Tear Fund website, tearfund.org.nz, you can find in their blog more about Stephen, but also we've put a link up on our Morning Wake Up Instagram stories if you want to click on that.
Yep, at the Morning Wake Up NZ. It's just on 8 o'clock time for the latest in your news headlines.